But Jim Harbaugh, I can tell you this, has been calling around asking for people in case he gets an NFL job if they would join his staff. So he is interested in possibly returning to the NFL.
But at the least, there is enough interest on both sides to make us think this is at least somewhat real. Though, as one source who's very well informed of this told me last night, Harbaugh loves to be courted. So,
a little surprised by the timing, because this is one where I thought he may wait to have his bird in hand before he makes this move. And you know what? Maybe he does, but you're going to be hearing a whole lot about the Miami Dolphins pursuing Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. I love Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh. I love Jim Harbaugh.
They love Jim Harbaugh. There you go. You had Stephen Ross there at the end. That's him right here. Well,
Jim Harbaugh. I love Jim Harbaugh.
That's the owner of the Dolphins. Before that, you had Jason Lockham-Four from CBS Sports, Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network, and Jay Glazer on the Fox pregame yesterday talking about Jim Harbaugh, which is the hottest name in sports right now. Hottest name if you're online, the speculation about Jim Harbaugh, even though you do have the national championship game getting ready to be played tonight. The talk is about if Jim Harbaugh is going to the NFL, and if he is, what team's he going to? So, right off the top, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to the NFL. I think he's going to stay here at Michigan. I do wonder why the delay, and I think the delay, there was the one reporter there saying, Jim Harbaugh likes to, who was it? It was Rappaport said he liked, being wooed. I'll put it in his own words. What were his own words?
There is enough interest on both sides to make us think this is at least somewhat real. Though, as one source who's very well informed of this told me last night, Harbaugh loves to be courted.
Courted, so you can say, who doesn't like to be courted? It gives you a chance to leverage your situation. Maybe the last time that, you're going to get this where, you have everybody throwing everything in the world at you, and, you get two sides pulling at you, and you think it over, even if your mind, you think it's all made up. You're going to at least listen to offers. Like you could say, there's a lot of different ways you can think about this. Like, maybe Jim Harbaugh does. I put a lot of maybes in here. Maybe he likes the Bears organization enough to say, hey, I'll listen to your pitch. Does he like the Raiders enough to wait till Saturday night? That's, one that I'm sure if you're a Michigan fan thinking, wow, I got to wait around, till Saturday night. Like if the Raiders went out, it was fabulous theater last night, watching them, get a win for their interim coach, Bisaccia, who, it'd say, well, you're going to fire a coach after he makes the playoffs as a 7th seed and gets in there if they go and lay an egg in the first round. Yeah, I think they could still move on. So you could say, you know what? Yeah, the Raiders would still be in play. And then today, the surprising one was the Dolphins moving on. And, that's one where immediately you think about, oh, wait a second, Stephen Ross. And Stephen Ross, did come out. And there was Jeff Darlington saying that, no to Jim Harbaugh. But you know what? The part, like if Jim Harbaugh, and he's got to this point, this is what's happened. Like if it would have, if there'd have been some kind of resolution over the weekend and Jim Harbaugh's coming back, you're like, hey, he didn't get it to Monday. If you're going to take it to today, then, all of the, he's going to be here. There's nothing going on. Yeah, he loves Michigan. He's just waiting. He's just waiting because he just wants a little bit more from the administration. He wants a little bit more money here. Why not? What if an NFL team offers him the moon and stars like the Bears? What if the Bears say, you know what? We fired our general manager. We fired our head coach. Hey, Jim, here's not only $10 million a year, here's $15 million a year. Here's what was it? 5 at 15. Here's $75 million. Well, you know what? Here's 6 years. 15. Here's 6 years at $15 million. That's $90 million guaranteed. Plus, you're going to be the head coach. Plus, you could be the GM. Maybe it'd be more money there considering how much general managers make and head coaches. Maybe that'd be and sometimes there's offers that come out there and you say, you can't refuse. And if you're Harbaugh, you just say, hey, you know what? I love Michigan. I love the contract. I like right where I'm at. I like, the administration is, fully behind me and everything else, but I'm just going to wait because it's going to be the last time. I'm going to wait to see what everybody's pitch is because you never know. And that's dangerous. To me, that part is dangerous if you're a Michigan fan and, you want Jim Harbaugh to stay around because no matter who's talking to who, and, I'll be checking my phone here while we're here every day. Talking about Michigan, not just today. This isn't some emergency Jim Harbaugh podcast. Every day at 1, weekdays, we're here. Plus, after Michigan basketball games and Michigan football games, here on the Maize and Blue Review. It's great to be here. Hope you had a nice weekend. It was an interesting day in the NFL yesterday. Interesting for a lot of Michigan fans, rooting for the Raiders last night and them actually getting it done. What would happen with a tie? They got in the playoffs. So, you wanted the Raiders to either or tie or win that game against the Chargers. But, it really, you can, and like I said at the beginning, I think ultimately Jim Harbaugh is going to weigh these NFL offers and he's going to look to his family and he's going to look, to his parents and the situation here at Michigan. And he's going to stay here. I think that's what's going to happen. That looks like the reports here from the Maize and Blue Review as well. And that's how I feel. Now, when you get it to today, you can say, what's the delay? And you can say, you know what? Nobody's talking about Jim Harbaugh and Michigan losing to Georgia and just what a catastrophe that game was against the Dogs. Everybody's just talking about how great Jim Harbaugh is. And you can say, well, that's why. That's why you let this go a little bit because the talk is not about what Michigan wasn't able to do in the Orange Bowl. The talk is about how great things are going to be when Jim Harbaugh comes back and looking ahead and recruiting and looking towards next year. And is there a chance that, this was the plan all along? Like, you know what? Let's, instead of having everybody talk about, how bad things went for Michigan at the end, let's just talk about, because Jim Harbaugh is a wanted man right now. Brian Flores, you could say he got the short end of the stick. I think he did down there with the Dolphins, but he didn't get along with his general manager. But Dolphins fans are saying they don't care if Jim Harbaugh's, got a relationship with Stephen Ross. They want him as the head coach because he's the number one candidate. All of these teams, and we don't know about the Raiders yet. They've got a game coming up on Saturday. They made the playoffs, but we do know about the Dolphins. We do know about the Vikings who got rid of their general manager, Spielman, as well as their head coach and Zimmer. They got rid of Rick Spielman, their general manager. Pace and Nagy, the combination, they're gone in Chicago, both, and the talk that you can have, it doesn't work in the NFL, but, guys like the Tuna back in the day, Bill Parcells, he wanted full control. Parcells wants full control. No, they're offering Jim Harbaugh to come on back. He's the number one candidate, full control, all the money in the world that he could possibly have. You could say, and I know when you love Michigan, you're saying, who cares about all that? It's Michigan, his family, he just wants to stay here. Could it be a tough decision for him? I think that it's come to today. He's listening. And when you listen, and when NFL, when you're the top candidate, and these guys, they got to win the offseason, they got to get the top candidate. Man, they just open up the vault and back it up, or however you want to put it, the Brinks truck, open up the vault and say, hey, here's all the gold and all the power you could possibly want. Is there any price that would be acceptable, and how much power also that would be acceptable that you'd be able to take this job? So, that's where we are. Am I faulting Jim Harbaugh that he's made it here to Monday? Excuse me. I'm not. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this. You can say, hey, he owed it to, the Bears. He knows the ownership, owed it to the Raiders, owes to let it play out, or he owes it to himself because he, obviously loves coaching, but, he coached in the NFL and had a lot of success. And we know what he's done here at Michigan. He could say, hey, this is my last chance. Very, very plausible scenario. Scenario number one, where it's like, you know what, he's got his deal at Michigan. It's as attractive as deal as he could possibly ask for, considering that Mel Tucker just got 10 years at $95 million. James Franklin went to 70 and got everything that he possibly wanted. And Jim said, hey, I need this, and this, and the contract. With TMBR here, that hey, that contract's done. It's been in front of him. He's had it to look over and say, hey, you know what? Here it is. I got everything I could possibly want. But I'm going to owe it to myself just to listen to what these NFL teams had. And, that's where we're at today. Now, do I see a scenario where Jim, has got his contract, he's looked at it, and he said, you know what, I'm just going to play this off till today because, the national championship game is tonight. And, at 5:00, instead of everybody, talking about Georgia and Alabama, they're talking about me. And they're talking about Michigan. And maybe that is the case right there. So I don't know. We're going to go through a little bit more of this in the scenarios. I see somebody coming up, and it's Mike saying he thinks Jim Harbaugh saying, what do you think about Ryan Day and his chances of bouncing to the NFL? Well, you know what? I think it's possible. The amount of money and control in, I think Bears fans, their number one choice is Jim Harbaugh. Like, I think Dolphins fans, maybe not their owner. I'm going to get to more of that in a minute. But I think the Raiders, their number one choice is Jim Harbaugh. The Bears' number one choice is Jim Harbaugh. The Vikings, it's attractive. Now that you look over that, I've never seen any link towards the owner there in Minneapolis, towards Harbaugh. But heck, Harbaugh's a Midwest guy, Minnesota, not so far off, from the weather here in Michigan. Ownership, general manager vacancy, head coaching vacancy. I got to believe Jim Harbaugh's pretty high up on their list too. The point here is that, he's number one. Your point about Day, if the Bears lose out on Jim Harbaugh, would they like Ryan Day? Well, I think that he would be a pretty attractive coach for Chicago. Oh, yeah. Got the best out of Fields when he was in college, his college coach. I mean, there's the connection right there. A guy who offensively is regarded as a forerunner, in the NFL right now. So I do think that Day, the attention, or he's on, I'll put him on a short list if I was a Bears fan or if I was a Bears reporter, talking about who's next. I do think that Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State, would be on that list. So, we're looking at all the possibilities here. Again, there's a couple, I talked to a few people today, and, one person was getting upset, like, well, stop linking Harbaugh to all these jobs. I mean, like, look at it all. He evaluate him on his word, and what were his last words? Like, this is a new beginning, and he loves Michigan and all these things. Well, Jim Harbaugh's not doing himself any favors. Like, I'm going to take a coach at his word and what he's had to say. But what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to look at the situation and how it plays out. I'll take you back to last year, and last year I know ultimately. They came to a decision with the contract, and whoever's just half the money and all of this, and according to Michigan and Harbaugh, there wasn't any interest there in the NFL. But since it went as far as it did, and it went into the signing day, like I couldn't believe actually the Michigan side on that and what they were saying, and they told the reporters and the people on the inside, like, no, you know what, this was something, they just let it play out. Then, like, it's not the way it looked. It's not the way that it just didn't seem reasonable at all. It seemed silly if that was going to be the case, to let it play out like it did. I really thought that if the Bears didn't make the playoffs last year, that Jim Harbaugh would have been the head coach at Chicago. So when you get into this week, and I believe that while he likes Michigan and it's his plan to stay here, he's going to listen. And it's a little bit like in recruiting when, you're I don't know, Will Johnson, I mean, local guy and everything else, but, Will Johnson says, you know what, I'm going to go out. I'm fully committed to Michigan, but I'm going to take my visits. I'm going to go out and, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm going to go out to California, and I'm going to see what they have to say out at USC. I'm just taking the visit. I think this is the case with Jim Harbaugh here. His name is it's the number one name in NFL circles. And you know how NFL teams, they come out competitively. Is there a number? To me, is there a number that goes to $15 million a year, that goes to 6 years, $90 million in full control? Like, hey, Jim, $90 million full control in the NFL, whatever you're asking for at Michigan. I don't know. Like, could he ask for, 10? Could he ask for 100 million, 10 years and 100 million? And would Michigan say no to that? I mean, I don't know how they could. I mean, they just look up the road and say, hey, Mel just got 95. Mel just got 95. I want 100. I won the Big Ten, actually. And I made it to the college football playoff. Very easy ask. And I think Michigan would have to be prepared for that. I think Ward Manuel has been prepared for that, the whole time. So to just get to the point about all of it here is that he's looking, and that could be dangerous. Like when you're out there, even if you're fully committed to Michigan, even if you just want to listen, even if it's, just for fun, this last time, hey, why not? Because if we're going to talk in reality here, those first couple years that Jim Harbaugh came to Michigan, and there were the rumors after every Michigan fans, oh no, here we go again. Well, it was always a different situation. You never had the successful NFL coach going down to college. It was always vice versa. It was Nick Saban going up to the pros and bombing out and then going back to college. It didn't have a successful head coach. Now, I know Pete Carroll did it when he was at New England and then went to USC and then went back to Seattle. But this would be like, Pete Carroll at his, he wasn't really successful, though, at New England. I don't know how many, or the Jets. And I don't know how many offers Pete Carroll had, to stay in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh could have stayed in the NFL. And so there's nobody that's been in this situation before. So it does have everybody, in a tizzy here, because now, and it's completely different than last year because there was a bigger buyout, and Harbaugh, his stock was down. I mean, it was a gigantic arrow. 2 wins, looked like it was over for him. It wasn't necessarily, that exciting day. Like, hey, let's bring up Jim Harbaugh. Last year, won 2 games at Michigan. Well, now it's completely different. I mean, now it's like he has gone from, the last guy that you would want to pick to run an NFL team. Now he's number 1. And so I think that is a little bit dangerous for Michigan, that he is going to listen. You don't think he's going to listen to what the Bears have to say? Hey, Jim, full control, $100 million. You want it? No, you're going to stay at Michigan? Okay, good luck. And the thing with Stephen Ross, I want to listen to Stephen Ross people, and I saw Jeff Darlington immediately from ESPN say, no Jim Harbaugh. And then Stephen Ross, the owner, Michigan alum, big-time donor.
Jim Harbaugh. I love Jim Harbaugh. He had the opportunity once before to come to the Miami Dolphins, but he's at the University of Michigan, as everybody really knows. I guess that's really one of my that is the school I graduated from, and I'm very involved in it. And I'm not going to be the person that takes Jim Harbaugh from the University of Michigan. I hope he stays there. He is a great coach.
All right. Well, so that's Stephen Ross. People say, well, okay, there you go. Stephen Ross isn't taking Jim Harbaugh. If Jim calls up Stephen Ross and says, Stephen, I'm, the Bears are going to give me complete control and, $100 million. I want to go to the NFL. And you're my first choice. I want to go to South Beach. I don't know about the Windy City. I was just out for a walk this morning, and it felt like 5 below with the wind, in my face. I'm ready. I'm ready to go down. I'm leaving. The time, I love Michigan, but the time is, it's now. I want to go back to the NFL. So you don't have to take me, but I'm giving you a chance to say, hey, if you have something competitive with the Bears or the, you got $100 million in 6 years in full control. I'll go coach the Dolphins. And Ross could say, look, yeah, I want him to stay at Michigan, but you know what? He's leaving. Do I want him at Michigan? Yeah. But do I want him at Miami over Chicago if it's going to happen for sure? Yeah. I mean, that's how you get around that. So I don't automatically cross off the Dolphins, just like I'm not automatically crossing off the Raiders. That's why I'm not automatically crossing off the NFL. If you take it to today, you want to be courted. You want to listen. Why else would you do that? I just want to, because people aren't talking about my loss to Georgia, so I'll just wait till 5 o'clock today, and I'll just, tell everybody then. If I had to make a prediction, that is going to be my prediction, but that's my first prediction. Like, can you make like multiple predictions about one story? I'm going to do it. My prediction is that 5 o'clock today, Jim Harbaugh, the announcement that he's staying in Ann Arbor. Like, he went in today, that they had an opportunity. The Bears have had an opportunity to call him. And those other teams have had an opportunity to call him, to get in there. And, is he going to sleep on those offers? I mean, look at, so my first prediction is going to be at 5 o'clock. The other one is, like I just said, you hear people say this all the time. We got a gigantic decision to make that. Okay, now the offers have come in. No hurry. Michigan's going to be there tomorrow. Let me sleep on it. So then, you could get into Tuesday. Now, so that would be the second, kind of scenario or prediction that he goes into tomorrow. He wakes up in the, bitter Ann Arbor cold and says, I love it here in Michigan. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying. If it gets by tomorrow, well, then you can think, well, you know what? Maybe he's waiting on the Raiders. Maybe he's going to wait, or maybe he's going to let these teams just go back and forth. We want him. No, we want, and it's just, crank up the offers to whoever he wants it. I wonder if here's the things that I wonder. I believe that he's taken it to today that he wants to listen at least to what the NFL teams have, even if he doesn't think that he's going to go there. I believe that. I don't know if there's any plausible scenario why you would say, well, you know what, I'm fully committed to Michigan. I got everything that I want, and yet I'm going to take it to Monday, or past Monday into the afternoon with all of these teams fawning over me, just to sit back and watch it all burn, or watch my name, being bandied about and all along. I mean, that doesn't seem very realistic to me. Like, if you do have, and he does, a connection to the Bears who drafted him, and loves the ownership there, and has a good relationship with the Davis, with the Raiders too, why not just, if he's all along, had no interest in that, well, why would you let it get to today? So you have some interest in either having your name being in the bright lights and everybody talking to you, or you just at least want to listen. It doesn't hurt. Like, what's the matter? I've told the recruits I'm listening. And so he's going to take 24 hours to listen. Is he going to take all week? I mean, that's the third one. Like, I think today at 5 o'clock, it's going to get done. It's my prediction. If he's going to say, well, I've listened to the teams that are available. Now I want to sleep on it because it's a big decision. Hey, here's $100 million in full control. I love Michigan and everything, but I'm going to sleep on it. And he wakes up tomorrow. And then we'll have an answer before noon. Is Jim Harbaugh an early riser? Is he going to, let's take it into the afternoon? Or you can say, you know what? I got to take this all the way because I owe it to the Raiders because I love Davis so much. And the silver and black gave me my first shot as coaches. They're saying, hey, let's see what happens with the Raiders, with the Las Vegas Raiders when they take on the Bengals. Because, it's a nice story for Rich Biscaccia, the almost 40-year assistant in the NFL who, you can make a case, won that game yesterday, and that could have been worth 20, 35, $35 million to that guy. One win getting into the postseason. But, 7 seed, go out to Cincy, get your clock cleaned. Could I also see that the Raiders would be back and want then Jim Harbaugh to listen? I mean, when you're in ownership there, you have to, plan for the best and worse. Like, so they're like telling Biscaccia, like, yeah, we want to beat the Bengals, but, let's get Harbaugh. We better make him a lucrative offer anyways. They offered Gruden, $100 million. They said they were going to let the process play out this time. Like, so they got to go through and they have to go through and the Rooney Rule. And so for while the Bears, and even though they do that, they're all doing things behind the scenes, but is he really going to let it go all the way till Saturday? Oh, that doesn't seem likely to me. So that's all it, and now that I sit here and talk about all of it, maybe I better check, first of all, my text to see what's coming through here. Can't take a job they don't offer you. This was me asking somebody that, pretty knows a little bit about Michigan, about their gut feel on Harbaugh and about the Bears. Can't take a job they don't offer you. It's coming from somebody who knows what's going on there. Maybe he thinks that the Bears, he's got to wait to at least listen to see what the Bears are going to offer him. They're going to offer him that job or not. Let's see what else is going on here. I better check to see just what the latest is here. And for that, I do want to tell you, everybody, that coming up, we will still have the Michigan Recruiting Spotlight. We will still have the Memorabilia Minute. We are here every day. We do that. It's the Maize and Blue Review. You should get involved if you already are. You know what I'm talking about. If not, you want to be a member of the Den. That's, this weekend. It was Harbaugh all the time, every move, all in one place, all the speculation, everything else, but recruiting and opinions, Michigan, 99% Michigan stuff on there. So subscribe to the Maize and Blue Review. We'll see you on there. And I'd love to see somebody that's watching this particular program or listening to it to get in and say, yeah, man, I signed up. Fithian told me. I'm waiting for that. We got a Harbaugh Watch Monday update. That was a very positive one from Josh Henschke. If you're a Michigan fan, here's somebody complaining about the athletic director. Yeah, is it Ward Manuel's fault if Jim Harbaugh is going to take the Chicago job? I don't. If you offer Jim Harbaugh everything that you possibly can, like the blank check. Hey, I want to know about admissions policy. I want to know about name, image, and likeness. And if they're like, yeah, whatever you want to do, we'll do. And whatever figure you want, if you want more than Mel Tucker, we'll pay it. I don't think would it be outrageous for Jim saying, I want 150 million. That would be outrageous, but 100 million. And I think Michigan's prepared to do all of that. You can say, well, you don't know Michigan. I know Michigan likes that stadium. They need it full to the gills. And while Harbaugh's been here and what he did last year, it would be full to the gills next year. And it's worth paying him that. Facts. So, I guess I lost my train of a thought here. Well, it was just coming down and saying about Ward Manuel, if he should be blamed if, Jim Harbaugh, would take an NFL job. I don't think there can blame on this side. It goes back to last year. People say, oh, Jim Harbaugh wasn't treated well. He wasn't treated well by the administration. He wasn't treated well by fans. And I find that to be mostly a hogwash from anybody that's coming up with that. First of all, the fans, if you're going to take like 10% of like some fan base, like a lunatic fringe part of, and then all fan bases have them. Like you're going to say, well, these message board people or people on Twitter were, going nuts about them. And I'm listening to sports talk radio. It's like, okay, every coach, is going to get that. So listening to that is The total straw man stuff. And the other one is like, I have heard like, but overall, Michigan fans, they're, they really didn't treat Jim Harbaugh well, over the last couple of years. Like, you know what? Anybody that's sitting on this side in almost any big time job that I could think of, Jim Harbaugh did a pretty decent job, but he didn't beat his rival. You all know the story about what happened before this year. It was here's the point. It was very reasonable. I'm not getting way off this side or that side, you got to be a Michigan man or you always got to be loyal. I'm just talking about being a reasonable sports fan. It was reasonable even before last year to say, hey, you know what? I hope that Michigan makes a change. That wasn't like unfair to Jim Harbaugh. It wasn't unfair to Michigan. In fact, it was very fair. And I know this, and I know that after last year, I believe, and no, not internet, not, lunatic fringe. I would say that over half, the majority of Michigan fans, if you put them all together, I think over half of the fans last year were ready for Michigan to move on. And certainly couldn't have understood if Ward Manuel would have gone and moved along. Some of you might not believe that. I see a lot of people that were, I told you so, in the offseason. I was always with Jim. I was always with, it was you or whoever. But here's my point. It was reasonable even before last year, whether you like to believe it or not, to move on from the coach. What gets us to this year and now his name. And so for Jim to have some rabbit ears, and I know his brother pointed it out after the Ohio State win that, boy, some of those people, even here locally, you guys were, giving them a rough ride. I don't know what John was talking about there. I mean, John, sometimes these coaches just get wrapped up in their own stuff and, hey, you can throw you can take your shot, when you want to talk, and get your brothers back. We all understand that, but there was nobody there was, nothing being unfair there. Oh, but what about Paul Feinbaum? It's like, you know what? Are you new? I mean, this is what, he's been doing for years for anybody. You're going to go and you want to talk about what people are going to listen to. And, that's been his thing all along. Get wrapped up on that. And maybe that's what John Harbaugh, although he wasn't local. So, yeah, I'm not even, blaming Ward Manuel. Am I going to blame the administration or the Board of Regents that they don't want to be all in on football? And hey, look, I'm not involved in those particular conversations, but you've got, hey, you got that big bowl over there on Stadium in Maine. You need to fill that thing 110,000 plus. And if you think like now the time, because the landscape has changed, that you can pay players and you don't want to do that, or you don't want to adjust some admissions, and maybe you don't, because you can say, hey, we want to keep the academic part. I mean, I'm not like if it was me, I didn't go to Michigan, but if you went to me and said, hey, do you think they could adjust the admissions? I'd say, I don't know. How's that going to look for the U.S. The World Report, when they evaluate and they rank, the public institutions? Because Michigan's always, if they're not one, I mean, they're in the top three. They were, I think, 3 this year. They're always in the top 5, right? That's something that people care about. The academic reputation, and if it means for the football team is going to be able to, bring in players in the portal easier, or on a par with other teams in the country, I could see how there could be some pushback there. Because what if you fall out of the top 10, and you're that could be a big deal. Paying the money part, people that have a lot of money, sometimes they're the ones that are the most concerned about money. So maybe like, no, you know what? We never wanted to get involved in that, paying big time, but they have been. They had the guy that was, spending millions of dollars flying, the whole team and, the hundreds of people across the world, to get that world experience for Michigan football. That was recruiting. those camps, signing with the stars. I mean, it's what it takes. And now, even though you didn't like, the teams before getting into the gray areas, now they've opened that up and said, hey, you know what? We understood it. Just like, to me, you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound here. You got to pay. You got to pay the players. You got to figure that out. If you think, Texas A&M, like, yeah, but they're outright paying guys, $6. Well, yeah. That's what you can do now. And if you don't like it, you say, look, I like being top 3 in World News and Report. I like, not paying the players their education. And I know there's a lot of people like this. Hey, people don't want to come to Michigan for the academics, or they want to get paid, the hell with them. Let them go somewhere else. Well, and then, you can just say, look, those other teams, whether it's in the Big Ten or in the country, like, they don't have their standards, or they've lowered their standards. However you think about that. All right. So I've gone all this way here. Let's get to the Michigan recruiting spotlight. And for that, Clint Cosgrove, I asked him, he is works for Rivals in recruiting, asked him last week if he thought that Michigan could compete for annually a top 5 classes year in and year out.
But what this year did is it showed Michigan is back. And then when a team comes back like that, then when you're watching the games, they're showing all the old great Michigan teams, and kids get a sense then of what this program is built on. And so I think that really gives you a shot to have a top 5 class, especially with this coaching staff. And if Harbaugh stays and it continues to win, continues to develop, there's no reason they can't be a top 5 class. Now, when you talk about beating the Alabamas and Georgias at their own game, that's hard. And the reason for it being is there's just a higher concentration of talent in the South.
There you go. That's Clint Cosgrove for the Memorabilia Minute, a card of Jim Harbaugh from 1990. Why is it in plastic? Well, that's what I found it yesterday when I was looking through some old cards. There it is from a long time ago. Chicago fans have said this a couple times this week. Like, yeah, you know what? He went to Michigan, but you know what? He played quarterback longer for us, the Chicago Bears, than he played at Michigan. So, that loyalty stuff, sometimes in the pros. And I know college is the one you pick, the pros, they got to pick you. So it is a little bit different. But Bears fans, they're excited. To wrap all this up and come back here, that it's got this far, I think everything that's being said about all these coaches and banning all the salaries and, could he go here? Could he have full control? I think all of it, if it's not legit, the speculation, of course, is warranted. If you get to Black Monday and you are the number 1 coach that is going to be on everyone's list, then everything that people say, whether you want to believe it or whether you don't want to believe it or Jim Harbaugh's put himself in this position and he can end it. Yeah, but he hasn't said anything. Well, his silence is speaking volumes here. He wants to be courted. He wants to be entertained. He wants to listen. And again, my prediction is by 5:00 today that this will be over. But if not, then, you're going to sleep on some offers or got to get that offer first and at least think about it. Well, then becomes a day. I think if it gets beyond tomorrow, well, then I think you're getting into the situation where he feels like, let this play out. Let everybody just go crazy and let him get to Saturday. And let's see what happens with the Raiders, because there's not a crazier team or a crazier owner. There never has been than the Raiders, who are all about just win, baby. So we'll see how all that goes. No basketball until Friday. Hopefully, Michigan's able to find a way to get out onto the court by Friday, get some hoops here. But we'll see. Maybe tomorrow we'll be talking about, Jim wanted to listen, took it to Monday. He's back in the fold. Let's go. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about the national championship game tomorrow. I'm picking Georgia. 30-25. You heard it here first. Everybody have a great day, and thanks for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow.